Welcome to the LOGSTAT, the Army's premier podcast on all things sustainment, where we analyze new developments, discuss current trends, and forge the path ahead for the next generation of sustainment soldiers. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the LOGSTAT. I'm your host, Captain Garett Pyle. I'd first like to thank everyone for their support with getting this podcast off the ground and all your feedback. With every episode, we continue to strive to deliver you cutting-edge and engaging conversations that you, the listener, finds the most appealing, especially with today's episode. Now, this may come as breaking news and a shock to some of you, but the Basic Officer Leadership Course, BOLC, here at ASU, as well as how Logistics Lieutenant's Commission is changing dramatically. Now, I won't going to hold you in suspense because we have a lot to get into, so here it is. For generations, Logistic Lieutenants had the option to commission into either the Transportation Corps, the Ordnance Corps, or Quartermaster Corps. That is no longer the case. Instead of waiting until Captain, Lieutenants will now commission directly into the Logistics Corps. From the very beginning, Lieutenants will be trained to be multifunctional logisticians able to serve in any Lieutenant logistics slot, removing the separate branch barriers that previous Lieutenants faced. With any dramatic change, though, there will be some growing pains as everyone adapts to this new system. To walk us through this new development, I have here with me today Lieutenant Colonel Jesse A. Pena, the Chief of Logistics Proponency at ASU for CASCOM. He's a native of Del Rio, Texas, and graduated from the University of North Texas in 2002 with a bachelor's degree in applied sciences and commissioned through their ROTC program. He holds a master's of science in administration from Central Michigan University, and he began his career as a platoon leader in Germany before having the unique opportunity of being selected for a broadening assignment working with the Rocket System Launch Group at the Detachment 12 Space and Missile Center in Kirkland Air Force Base, New Mexico. He has served with the 3rd Infantry Sustainment Brigade, with the 632nd Heavy Maintenance Company, with the 3rd Infantry Division, with the 82nd CSSB, with the 2nd Brigade Combat Team of the 82nd Airborne Division, with the United States Forces Korea, with the 13th ESC, with the 101st Airborne Division, with the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, and with the 129th Division Sustainment Support Battalion, before serving as the current Chief of Logistics Proponency. I know I've barely scratched the surface with your impressive career that includes deployments to South America and Iraq. Sir, you're the perfect one to walk us through all these changes as you have witnessed firsthand the impact logistic officers have on operations from a magnitude of units and locations. I'm so happy to have you here today with us, sir. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me here. Appreciate the invite. It's kind of funny to hear that, just being an old guy and being in the Army for over 20 years. So it just goes to show that anyone will have that opportunity too, and just stay in long enough and continue to have the grit and fight and do well.
Yes, sir. And then you've gotten to see a lot in your career so far. And that's why I'm so excited to get into today, because like I said, you've gotten to see how the impact is from not just a straight logistics standpoint, but you've seen it from just a magnitude of different landscapes as well. So kind of like as we just want to dive on into this, so why was there a need to consolidate the 3 BOLCs into one logistics BOLC? Because I'm coming from, I guess now considered the old guard. I went through transportation BOLC, and now it's just one. So why was there a need?
Well, I'm an old guy too, right? So, for good, bad, or indifferent, I've seen transformation changes, R-structs, every 4 to 8 years on just if it's between either the immediate threat, our adversaries, our budgetary constraints, or new priorities within the service. Certain things have to be adjusted to meet the priorities, the command, and our near peer adversaries. So where we stand today, the change for that is the multifunctional logistics officer. It's not something new because we have already doctrinally adjusted that through our training industry, meaning BOLC, right? So log BOLC has truly been around for 6 years now, where the quartermaster, ordnance, and transportation officers get the same curriculum, same POI and lessons plan, right? So a second lieutenant that gets commissioned for the last 6 years have been receiving the same 16-week curriculum starting from the Army profession, learning about tactical logistics on supply, maintenance, and transportation operations, mission preparation, going into LISCO foundation, mission execution, and then logistics profession, right? So what is that in, layman's terms? So you learn about, basic Army doctrine, what a lieutenant needs to know on the Army values, the profession, Army writing, ethics, operational terms and symbols and graphics. And then he goes into, okay, now tell me about the logistic systems that we have in place. So that's kind of like building the readiness, and then going into what do you do going out to the field? So field preparation, establish a BSA, do a LOGX, FTX type, go out there, do battle drills and warrior tasks. So getting after the warfighting competencies, right? And then doing convoy live fire or the convoy operations. What does it entail to do a convoy operation? Going to ranges, and then closing out with the FTX. So that's more or less every lieutenant will learn all the functional branches of ordnance, TC, and quartermaster. So now really the multifunctional change is just an administrative adjustment to reflect our IPSA, our personnel documents, and our MTOs and TDAs.
So you said that. So this has been, I remember when I was in company command, I had starting to receive lieutenants who didn't go through the separate branch bullets. And of course, being in company command, I was like, what? I was a little surprised at first because I went through bullet back in 2016. And then when I was in company command starting in 21, I remember that's when I first started to hear about lieutenants not having the separate branches.
Right.
And that first for me as company command, I was like, what? You haven't gone through that yet?
Right.
Especially by transporters, you didn't get to do the full, convoys out there, because we went to Fort Eustis at the time, and we got to run convoys, and it was just a completely different program. And I know that was towards more the beginning of it, so I know that there was some more trial and error.
Right.
Of figuring out what that curriculum is going to look like.
Correct.
And so that's been implemented.
Right. For 6 years now. For 6 years. That's correct. Yeah.
So now, when are lieutenants officially commissioning as LOGO? Is that this year? Is it officially?
Right. That's a great question. Right. So come October 25, this October 25, the personnel reclassification will take effect, meaning IPSA, personnel documents, officer accessions, where cadets will be able to preference an OML logistics branch as their branch, right? So there will be no QM, OD, or TC available for them to branch. The requirements don't change, right? The requirements, the priorities, that does not change. We're still going to assess about 1,650 second lieutenants a year. So that requirement will still remain. That's between the three legacy branches, right? So where we used to have those three equitable requirements on what we're looking for, now it's just going to be one branch. So for the seniors that are graduating of essentially May of 26, come fall of 25 academic year, they'll be able to preference an OML logistics branch and only logistics branch.
Right. So 90 Alpha.
90 Alpha, that's it. So 90 Alpha LG is going to be the only one that's be available for this upcoming academic year.
So those who are graduating this May coming up. They'll still have their separate
branches.
Right.
So this May of 25 will still be the old legacy ODTC and QM. But again, BOLC doesn't change. The POI, the curriculum still remains the same on everything that I just mentioned, which is really more focused on the basic logistics competencies on supply, maintenance, transportation, and then get after warfighting, right? Convoy operations, FTXs, establishing a brigade support area, what that looks like, ranges, all battle drills and warrior tasks. So that's what we really try to focus at the junior officer level.
So with these lieutenants now becoming 90 alphas, does that change MTOs in a sense across the Army where no longer 88 alphas, 90, 92 alphas?
Right. So great question. So that implementation will take effect come October of 26. So October 26, documentation wise for force management, you will see the unit MTOs and TDAs. They will all convert over to have 90 alphas, and that's only applicable for the O1s and O2s. As you already know, captains and above are already coded as 90 alpha, right? So what's interesting about that too is we're still going to retain the secondary AOC of what the legacy 88, 91s, and 92.
So I'm not losing my 88 alpha as
your secondary. Right. You're not going to lose that. And here's why. We're in development. It's very pre-decisional, but we're in development right now conceptually to design a potential functional track for the senior grades, post-KD captain, all the way up to colonel to be a functional area, TC, OD, and QM potentially, right? So
that's an awesome.
Right. So this is still in concept, still doing mission analysis. Because right now, if you look at our force structure across the board, there are positions in the senior grades from captain all the way up to colonel. About 30% of our formation has a functional specialized position for maintenance, transportation, or quartermaster per se.
I think that'd be a great thing because me being a transporter at heart,
right,
definitely always kept that very much that spirit of logistics and mindset. And I know for me, as being a senior captain now, about to get ready to take on the next grade soon, like I want to get into more of the transportation. Like I'm hoping to do my major time in a terminal battalion, see the maritime operations on a transportation side, and just see that side of it because I love transportation. So an opportunity to go up and just stay in that career path would be awesome.
Right. So let me talk a little bit about that. So as it stands right now, what is decided and is approved that all O1s and O2s will be 90 alphas. There is no more OD,
no more
QM, TC, right? What's pre-decisional, and we're doing mission analysis, is the functional track. So we're going to have the multifunctional track, which is 90 alphas, LG officers, and then do a functional track for OD, TC, and QM. So as an example, let's just use transportation. There will be potentially an opportunity that we could design a functional track for a transportation officer post-KD captain. So say you did company command in a terminal company or a movement control company or a transportation company. Doesn't matter. That's HETS or LMTVs. Doesn't matter. And you just say, I love transportation is my thing. And I want to stay in a functional transportation track from post-KD captain all the way to colonel. And then potentially compete if I choose to for battalion or brigade command later on, right? So then what does that mean? Well, we could come up with a process where you would VTIP into, hey, I want to be transportation officer. Okay, you're a functional area transportation officer. So now you would compete for TC billets as a 91 Alpha 90. So now we shifted the paradigm where now your multifunctional logistics officer is your secondary AOC because now you decide to go functional area transportation. So now you would compete potentially as a major.
You mean 88 Alpha?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
90
Alpha.
Right. Yeah. So 88 Alpha. So now you're an 88 Alpha 90, right? Okay. So you would be competing to be a DTO, and you want to be a DTO. And then from there, as a lieutenant colonel, now you want to be a CTO, a core transportation officer. And then if you don't want to compete for command, you don't have to because you're a functional area transportation officer. So now you could go be a DDOC, right? So like a DDOC director, where now you're in charge of strategic level distribution management, operating at a deployment distribution operations center. So that is kind of the concept right now. We're like, hey, if someone just loves maintenance or supply or transportation, that we come up with functional area tracks for those individuals, which is going to be a small population, right? We're looking at less than 30 to 20% of potential billets that might be available for those officers.
I think of course, this is all in concept right now.
Right.
That's just a great thing to even think about.
Right.
Especially the idea of like, you don't have to go the full command route because it's not for everybody.
That's right.
And I think that's the thing that the Army, just as a whole, needs to look at when it comes with key development positions. You can look at this especially I look at it as, part of me is like, we should bring back the tech ranks in the NCO Corps, because not everyone designed to be so much in that leadership. Is they are a subject matter expert, they're great at their craft, let them continue to career develop, but they're not forced to do into command where they're not going to thrive as much.
That's right.
And I think that's a great thing. That's
right. Yeah, because right now, as we know it, like our professional timeline is command centric, right? So if you want to stay competitive to make it all the way up to colonel, well, you have to command when it comes to being a logistics officer, right? So right now is, again, pre-decisional, right? We still need more mission analysis and to, present this to our senior Army leaders for decisions. But the problem statement that we have is we have senior grades that don't have the subject matter expertise in those functional areas, right? So as now we have atrophied, especially as a principal staff officer at those senior commands, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star commands, where we don't have the senior expertise to advise commanding generals on what's going on with a transportation or ordnance or quartermaster fields, right, for that O grade.
Yeah, that's going to be a whole other podcast episode.
Yeah, it is.
So that's awesome.
Yeah. But what fact of the matter is right now, all O1s and O2s are 90 alphas. They're going to start off as multifunctional logistics officers. And then, again, future development, see if we do potentially create a, very scaled down small future billets for those functional areas for OD, TC, and QM. And then if you want to be an 88 Alpha 90 in certain transportation billets, well, those opportunities could potentially present itself.
So, well, definitely thank you very much for that insight, sir. That's good to, especially for this, it just gets that conversation going.
Right.
So more people hear about it, that's good, and we can provide more feedback from others across the sustainment community.
Yeah. Because to be honest right now, so the logistics officer, the Marine Corps does it like that, right? So the Marine Corps for the O1s and O2s, they're just supply maintenance transportation. They're log officers, like right off the bat. And, they're designed to, yes, understand and know and be the SME for the maneuver element so they can, prolong endurance, enable operational reach, they're already there as a second lieutenant to do logistics. Now, later on in their path, they could go functional on something where they could specialize in one of those entities.
Awesome. So I know I want to tie some of it back because that's kind of gives us a good idea of like, especially what BOLC looks like now. So I know you said this has been implemented for 6 years now.
Correct.
And I don't know if everybody knows especially what that looks like unless you just went through it in the last 6 years. So for us, like me, who haven't went through it, what does this new BOLC look like for lieutenants?
Yeah, so like I mentioned in the very beginning, so the BOLC right up front, so it's broken down.
It's you say so it's still the same duration?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it hasn't changed. It's 16 weeks, right? And like I said, you start off with the Army profession, go into building readiness, mission preparation, LISCO foundation, mission execution, and then the logistics profession, right? So it's broken up in each of those modules, 16 weeks long. That's how BOLC's been for the last 6 years or so. And again, it's really focused on the warfighting piece of it, convoy operations, battle drills, warrior tasks, establish the support area, and executing FTX. And again, learning some of those systems and programs that we have with supply, maintenance, and transportation.
How many FTXs do they do?
One
FTX. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
Because I know, like, for when I went through transportation, I believe we had one FTX for all branches. We kind of went to together, and then me as a transporter, we went off to and did like our convoy as like a separate element.
So the convoy operations and the FTX are two separate.
Okay, those are two separate. Right. So one FTX, and then
the convoy operations.
Okay,
that's right. Because that's really I mean, that's the synergy behind us as logistics officers. Like, we have to understand convoy operations, and we have to understand how to do warfighting on an FTX, right? Field training environment, and get it and be the master behind our craft when it comes to a support area and how to do supply management, right? And supply operations or logistics operations in that environment, right? So tactics and operating at that level is very crucial for a lieutenant to know.
Exactly. I know that's one of my favorite times here going through BOLC was doing that, going out and doing the convoys. Just as we rotated through, that was just a cool experience. Learned a lot, especially because we were partnered, and I can't remember the unit that we're partnered with. Here, they took us out there down to Eustis and just working with those NCOs. It was just pretty cool.
Right. And I know from what I understand too, they take an ACFT, they do the high and weight, right, which is required, and they also do a 4-mile run as part of the grading credit, and land nav and weapons qualification, right? So kind of going after those warrior task and battle drills. So again, war fighting, they got to know how to shoot, move, and communicate. Right?
Exactly.
Pick up a weapon, qualifying the weapon, and do land navigation, which are, I think, very necessary skill sets that they have to know, right, going into their formations. And, you know, some people have different school of thoughts. Some people say, like, hey, wait till you report to your unit and you could do there. But, you know, we made the decision here at the schoolhouse that these are crucial areas that they have to know before they report to their gaining unit or their first unit.
So when I went to the schoolhouse, we had got our unit movement officer, or UMO training.
Yep.
And we did TC aims here as well.
We still do that.
So these lieutenants.
Did you do weapon qualification, land navigation?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We still did land nav. We also did some ones, and escape me right now, some of these GPS devices. We also went out and used daggers.
Daggers, yep.
Yeah, we went out and did daggers. But yeah, I remember we had to go into that one building on the other side of the campus, and we got UMO trained.
Yep.
We came out with a certificate, and we came out with the TC aims level 1 certificate.
That's still a thing.
So that is very good, having these lieutenants come through there, because once they get to the unit, it is very hard to somehow to get people trained with that.
That's right. So, and that's big for all the second lieutenants to know that when they get their follow-on assignment, like they're not to worry about maintenance or supply or transportation. Is like, you're going to be a logistics officer in a assigned position that'll be focused on either distribution, maintenance, fuel, water, or some kind of logistics functionality, right? So that's the idea. They are to be the SME of logistics, not the SME of maintenance or supply or transportation, but they're the SME of logistics within that organization. If it's a platoon of fuel and water, platoon of distribution, maintenance, you name it, right?
Wow. It's exciting to see how this program's really developed compared to when you went through.
Oh, yeah.
Went through.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's probably even more different than when you through, than when I am now here. So what do you see from your experience has been some pros and cons of this system? Because I imagine it's kind of or a follow-up question is any new program, there's going to be pushback.
Right.
So what do you see, especially our listeners, that you say, hey, this has been a good pro, maybe some cons, or what do you see?
Well, I mean, I'm an old guy, right? So, I mean, every generation has its own different, problem sets or, pros and cons when it comes to the force structure. And again, we're off of priorities of the administration, the nation, and the Army on where we're at and what we're doing based off of, the enemy situation or the environment. But with in today's age with LSCO, right? And, I say, the pros is with the advancement on technology and media and ISR assets and our equipment. I mean, we have to stay in lockstep where we at with innovation, modernization, understanding our near peer adversaries. That's important. I think that's the right answer, right? Or opposed to where I came in, I was right post 9/11. So we were just in a BCT-centric environment, So everything was off the brigade combat teams. It was all modular. It was plug and play formations where the brigades ran the show, right? And then we would, we kind of knew our deployment cycle. We knew when we were in training cycle. We knew when we were in support cycle, rest and recovery, and then training cycle and mission cycle all over again, right? So we knew when we're deploying, we knew where we're going, and now it's large scale combat operations, right? So, and everything is at the division level now. So everything's a division enabler, unless it's the 4-line element that's engaging. But the pros is, I think this is great, unique, and it gives commanders at echelons more opportunities to leverage their formation and how they see with their officers. And again, it's something that we've already done for the last 6 years. But the biggest pro, I would say, is we're focused on warfighting. We're focused on tactics. We're focused on warfighting. We're focused on grit and competencies and our attributes. And I think that's the right answer. And I think the lieutenants now, the second lieutenants, will easily pick up, just because, kids nowadays are guys are super smart, man. Like I was just really dumb and not that intelligent and not that smart when I was a young lieutenant, but and everything was very analog based, which, don't get me wrong, we still need some of the analog products. Can't forget some of that stuff, but some of the digital equipment and digital platforms we have, some of these lieutenants are like geniuses. Yeah, I not a smart guy, pretty dumb. It's just incredible. It's amazing and incredible what some of these young officers can do now with data analysts, running Power BI, the business intelligence system, right? And then again, all those digital systems that we have out there that we use to fight. It's just amazing, incredible. So that's the biggest pro that we have right now is how innovative and intelligent our young officers are about getting after that. And I think that'll be the con behind it is, well, again, I would say is senior leaders understanding and adapting to that, right? So some of the seniors are old timers like me, or just sometimes struggle on change, right? And
that's the way for me. I'm like, I love my I love going through the branch ceremony for transportation. Like, we got to go out, and I don't remember what it's called now, where you got to do a full course for the transportation. We're pulling trucks with them and just going out and just doing all these different challenges. And that was feel like, man, I'm part of the transportation corps. That was a great event that they did. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
Yeah. So as long as senior leaders, old guys like myself, as long as we're okay and can adapt, overcome, move forward with change, right? And some of them, for some other, I personally, I enjoy it. I love change, as long as it's, for the good. And at the end of the day, it's what we hand over to our successors, the legacy we leave behind, right? Because the colors are going to continue to, go out there and fight for us, right? Because it's the next generation that are going to continue to carry those colors forward. So yeah, I think the only con is just, adapt, overcome, and move forward with the change of this, knowing that as a junior officer, you're multifunctional. And then the idea is at the senior grades, right? Post KD captain and above, we start looking more functional expertise, right? So I think that would be the con. And like I said, the pro is the LISCO environment that we have to be prepared for. And the warfighting that we have brought into the curriculum is more focused on tactics and warfighting for our young junior officers.
Awesome. I know a future podcast episode is getting more into the tactics side of BOLC, and specifically what that looks like, how that's changed.
Okay.
Really how we get into how that's changed from when I went through, when you went through, especially now with the UAS, all the capabilities now that's being taught through tactics, how to do counter UAS.
Yeah.
And just,
that's amazing. That's super cool. I didn't get any of that stuff when I was a young lieutenant, right? That's amazing what the new stuff that's out there that's part of the PME process. So yeah, because back then we just really focused on our branch. It was really our branch, and we had a little bit of field training and, old legacy systems. But so the FTXs and convoy operations were very minimal during my time going out to the field, but we really focus a lot on our basic branch. For me, was ordnance, and we focus a lot on maintenance operations and munitions. But no, I think that this change it's great. It's awesome, and it's incredible to kind of see the direction that we're going.
So just kind of like two final things to focus in before we close out. You kind of alluded to and you talked about this, but anything else with what units should expect now with lieutenants compared to before? Because it seems like now they're going to be more multifunctional, whereas when I came, I was like, I'm a transportation officer. I need to be in transportation. Or I remember other people would be like, I'm a quartermaster. I can't be in this position.
Right. So I think now for sure, right? The message and the themes are out there, right? So between West Point, ROTC, OCS, right, are 3 commissioning sources that we do have. They're all fully aware of our new accession mission. That's the cadets will branch only logistics, right? So for the force and the operating force out there, just know that they're going to come in and knowing that they're going to say they're logistics officers, they're 90 alphas, and they're prepared to execute whatever position as a lieutenant they're assigned to. If it's distro, maintenance, fuel and water, transportation platoon, a support platoon, doesn't matter. They know that they're going to be a logistics officer and they're going to do well and do great at it. I don't think that, and I think for the commanders, they're going to see that, yes, their craft is more so on warfighting, right? Because that's what we're trying to instill in them before they show up to their formation is warfighting, is tactics, is field training environment, convoy operations. Talk a little bit about the Army profession, right? And then and making sure they land nav, weapon qualification, and taking the ACFT before they report. So really, we kind of leave it to the commanders to, we do talk obviously the Common Core, the supply, maintenance, transportation, but we don't deep dive as much because again we only got 16 weeks with them, so we really focus more on the warfighting piece of it. Because then when they come back as captains for Triple C, then we get more into deep diving into the logistics side of it.
Exactly. So to close this out, sir, what advice do you have for any new lieutenant that arrives to updated BOLC? They're now going to be a 90 alpha. Like, what advice do you have for these new lieutenants?
Grit. Just go out there, have pride in what you do, be proud of who you're with, and just give it grit and warfighting. Do well, perform, and your chain of command, your leaders will take care of you and do right. Don't forget that you're an officer first, right? And then it's expected of you to adhere to the Army values and our profession and our warrior ethos. So being a logistics officer is always going to come second, but your place to do, you are the leader, you're the decision maker, you're the guy in charge or gal, you're the person in charge of that organization or formation or wherever you're put in. So lead from the front, lead by example, and just have grit.
Thank you, sir. This has been a fantastic conversation today, especially all that insight on ways the Army might be changing, especially for senior officers in the logistics world. So I'm excited to see how that continues to go. I'd love to definitely have another conversation in the future.
Yeah, of course, man.
As that builds. But definitely want to thank you for coming in today, for all this great insight to our listeners. I mean, the operational landscape is changing. As we talked about, we must adapt to ensure we're training the most lethal logisticians possible.
That's right.
It starts with BOLC, and this is a significant change that many will have to get used to. But as we know, the Army is always adapting to be more lethal. I know I'm excited to see this, the new logistics officer being fully 90 alpha, seeing how they develop through the BOLC, and everything else that your office is working on. I look forward to have you back on the show, maybe discuss some of the other programs that you have in development, maybe some of the ones you just alluded to, but thank you, sir.
Yeah, of course. And in the logistics proponency, outside of the officer accession mission that we're doing out for Night Alpha, we got TWI programs. We got two that are 90 Alpha specific, right? One in FedEx and one in Deloitte, and then we got the VCU program too. That's another fellowship that we have that we select 15 candidates for that every year. But yeah, I'll be more than happy to talk about some of the other programs that we do in logistics proponency outside of the professional timeline. So
awesome. Once again, thank you, sir.
Of course.
That is all we have for us today, folks. I hope you've enjoyed our discussions. Be on the lookout for more episodes dropping every 2 weeks. As always, sustainment leaders start here. See you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of the LOGSTAT. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Please share this episode across your formation and leave us a review. If you have a topic you'd like here discussed, then please reach out to us at armysustainment@army.mil or directly to me on Global at garett.h.pyle. Follow us on Facebook, X, and LinkedIn at Army Sustainment. We'll see you next time. Sustainment leaders start here.